What you got for me, man?
You know what I'm saying? Look. What?
Okay. What?
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Fuck is appropriation.
Oh.
What is appropriation?
I don't know. Let's find out. How y'all doing? My name is O'Neal.
I am Brooklyn.
And this is a new episode of Speak the Proof.
Yes, and what are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about cultural appropriation and what that means.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. You have the definition. Can you tell us real quick?
1 second, let me look it up.
Okay, go ahead.
You know I be in my phone.
Yeah.
The adoption of elements of one culture by another culture, especially in the case of dominant culture exploiting the minority culture.
You know what? And I think we really need to really discern what that means, because there's different definitions of cultural appropriation. There's different definitions of exploitation and then appreciation.
You know what I'm saying? There's a fine line, though. Yeah. There's a fine line, and we got to define what that line is. Exactly. But you know what? We should get into some stats.
We should get into some stats. Before we get into these stats, y'all, because there's another definition that was from... there was
in your soul.
Yeah. Because here's the thing: there's a lot of definitions that come about like cultural appropriation, what it means, But in my own opinion, there is the whitewash version, and then there's the version that we actually see that actually affects people in society.
Everything.
Basically.
Look, so what's the?
I got you.
What's the deeper version?
So I like this one.
Okay.
So it's the theft of cultural elements for one's own use, commodification, understanding, acknowledgement, or respect for its value in the original culture. Results from the assumption of the dominant, i.e. white culture, typically in the United States, right to take over or take the other cultural elements. So
anything that's taken outside of its original context and used for whatever element of non-cultural purposes.
Absolutely. And
that would be appropriation.
That's appropriation. Now, I always wanted to ask, because we talked about this before, is there a difference between appropriation and exploitation? Because there might be a difference and there might not, by the definition we're looking at.
On the same spectrum, that there's a fine line in that direction, because you know what I'm saying? Like when you start monetizing things, and when you talk about the monetization of certain cultures, especially in American culture, when we have such a broad history of taking without giving credit, or exploiting resources and time from people without giving credit to where those things are coming from. I think that exploitation of property is theft, like you just said.
The intellectual property of other cultures. And that's kind of how we had to look at when you think of, I don't know, it doesn't matter if it's rap in the black culture or if it's, using a headdress in a Native American culture. It doesn't matter. It could be German, Irish, doesn't matter. Right. And, that's where I think that the black community, I'm speaking to black folk in general, just, there is aspects of when there is appropriation and when there's not. And, I want to go into state to stat.
Right.
Let's go into state to stat real quick, y'all. This is where we're going to be talking about basically just a couple stats about what we're talking about. And for this, I didn't want to do a stat actually. I wanted to do a quote.
Okay.
And so I'll be honest with y'all. I was not a big Elvis Presley fan because of this. I was not big. Nah, bro. I was anti-Elvis for days.
Okay, so what's up?
And it's not that I'm not anti-Elvis, but here's the thing. And we all know Elvis Presley. He was called the King of Rock. Whoop-de-whoop.
Right.
It is what it is. But here's the thing. So this was from James Brown. He said that I wasn't just a fan of Elvis. He was my brother. Little Richard, another legend. He goes, Little Richard has also publicly thanked the Lord, apparently, for sending Elvis to...
Sometimes you gotta stop and thank the Lord.
Right.
Elvis.
For Elvis, apparently. Little Richard thought so, apparently.
You know what I'm saying?
But he said he thanked the Lord for sending Elvis to open the door so I could walk down the road. Comma, you understand. And I guess you could
get that.
You know what I mean?
I can get that. But I think that the problem is still that the root, you know how I am. I'm always about, let's get to the root, let's get to the seed. And at the root of rock and roll is black culture. And the fact that he paved out a way for it to manifest for black people is not any less exploitative. Like you're still exploiting it for your benefit. Now the fact that other people benefit from you carving out that lane, all you did is whitewash what was already there so that Black people and other cultures could come back in and reestablish its cultural, presence.
Its presence and things.
But it's even the original. That's just validating that in order for something to be cool or in order for something to stick, it has to first be tangible or acceptable for white culture before it can be, or palatable, I guess is a better word. And that's what Elvis did. And I can understand his thankfulness for Elvis doing that, but at the end of the day, it existed, it predated Elvis, and it's still, even after him is a thing. And to give all the credit to one person and act like he made the whole culture easy for a culture of people who are already participating in it is crazy.
Yeah. It's, and that's, I think, where I kind of changed on my perspective of Elvis Presley, because you're absolutely right. Elvis Presley he didn't necessarily, it wasn't Elvis that necessarily exploited. It was the industry around him. It was the music business around him. It was the media around him that labeled him and put him on the pedestal of being the king of rock, even though he said, y'all, like he went to church, he went to Black churches to figure out that music, And I get that. Listen, it's almost the same. You could kind of fast forward it to, the 2000s with Eminem. You know what I mean? Like Eminem he blew up, and a big chunk of that. And he said it himself. He goes, I probably wouldn't be as successful if I wasn't white. And it's because he tapped into that demographic of kids, white kids in particular, especially even in the Elvis Presley's era, that liked Black music but didn't like Black face. They didn't want to see Black people.
There's a sliver of Black culture, and Black culture gets a bad rep to me in this aspect that they're not accepting of other people. Black people want y'all to come to the cookout. Absolutely. They just don't want y'all to act like y'all made the potato salad. Like, that's all we're saying. Like, you can come and you can bring your olive salad and whatever else you made. We can eat pistachio pudding, and you can tell me all about your grandma's Greek yogurt. But don't come to our events and to our culture and present it as it was yours, or in a manner that's been watered down from its original. Me personally, I don't have a problem with white women who braid their hair. I don't have a problem with white women who wear headdresses. And you know what I mean? Like, when we go, everything that we do in America is appropriated, everything. So I don't have a problem when white people participate in human experience and human culture. I have a problem when they act like they invented it.
Absolutely.
And they act like they're so comfortable with it. Like, the argument comes up a lot, like, she grew up in the hood, so that's why she talks like that. Speaking with a Black accent and speaking Ebonics is it's cultural, yes, and culture exists with a group of people, and if you happen to be a part of that group of people, you exist inside of that culture. But part of existing inside of that culture is respecting that culture and understanding that in that culture there's a different understanding. I'm mixed, so I understand how and what is acceptable around white people and Black people in the South and in my family. And it's not to say that I'm toning down or code switching in front of other people. It's just that I'm in a conversation, and the objective for my conversation is to express a message, and I can't do that if we're speaking different languages. So I have to be bilingual or bicultural in explaining things.
Ooh, that's a good question. So are you saying that, and we'll just tie in that real quick, code switching.
Yeah.
That's coming from that. I'm talking to white folk now, because white folk don't really have to code switch. Black people do. Other cultures kind of do. Other ethnicities kind of do in a white predominant country, is
society,
that in a white predominant society, that's not necessarily appropriating, but that kind of shows, it's almost a byproduct of that racial power imbalance in this country, that we have to be able to walk in the circles of predominantly white areas. We have to code switch. I'm coming from an area that I grew up in a predominantly white high school and things of that nature at Lovejoy High School. And so I, even for myself, had to learn how to code switch between different ethnicities and different demographics. And that, I think, kind of shows.
To you? Was it blatant? Like, was it a rule? Like, for me, it was like, this isn't your mama's house. This isn't your daddy's house.
Yeah.
Was it like that for you? Like, you're not in that situation.
I watched a TikTok. It was kind of funny. She was like, she was like, I have black thoughts and black words around
Right.
non-black people, and so I'd be quiet. And so like for me, you know, I had to navigate kind of that social
Okay, I can understand
dynamic.
that.
You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
like there was certain things that I had to tone down being a black kid that I couldn't really express in front of my white friends, or I felt I couldn't express. Now it's a
Right.
little bit different. Obviously, I'm grown, but at the same time, that's something that black and non-white people in this country and other white predominant countries have to do
Right.
because of the power imbalance.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so when it comes, let's roll it back to cultural appropriation, is that cultural appropriation only exists because, and this is our definition, this is my personal definition, obviously I think it's more a little bit more negative, is that it is the exploit, it is.
He says a little bit more
It
negative.
is.
Right, right.
It's the exploitation and commodification just like that. So if you're not commodifying or exploiting, you can make money. Listen, you could be a white person that makes money off of black culture.
Okay.
You can do that.
Okay.
But in a way that's not harming the black community. If that makes sense.
So give us an example.
I think Eminem is not culturally appropriating. I think Macklemore is. I don't think that.
Why?
Yeah.
Why Macklemore?
Macklemore said, "This is why I don't. This is really I don't fuck with Macklemore. I'll be honest
I'm
with you.
over here like, why
I don't fuck with
Macklemore?
Macklemore. And he's from my area. He's from
What's
Grand
wrong with
Prairie,
Macklemore?
nigga. Yeah.
Okay, how do you feel? Wait, just for clarity, how do you feel about Mr. White Iverson, Mr. Post Malone?
That's what I'm saying.
Come on, lay it on
bro.
me so I can.
Like, so you gonna bop me in the head?
You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I don't. Not.
I don't believe in violence.
I like not necessarily Macklemore. It's mostly. It's the Iggy Azaleas and the Macklemores and the, like you said, Post Malone.
Okay, I can understand the
specifically
Iggy.
Post Malone, and I will say that because listen, and I talked to Cheese. He's our director. He's our white director. This off thing, but we talked about
Cheese
this.
is white.
Oh, I didn't realize he was. I think he's like Cuban. I think
He's something else. I don't know. We don't have to talk about it.
Yeah. But like Post Malone, I remember saying he was talking in an interview about, he wanted to switch up. He goes rap music is so negative. I want to do something more uplifting. And him using black culture and hip hop artists to jumpstart his career.
I can hear the
know what I
whisper
mean?
politic in that. I can hear the whisper. I can hear the angry black woman in that.
But it's like it's the
It's
usage.
not angry.
But here's the
Yeah.
thing. But even Miley Cyrus is another great example of, I believe, cultural appropriation for that stint of when she came back. She jumpstarted her whole career from being a Disney kid and being who she was today, being a pop star today through hip hop. Miley Cyrus went through a phase where she was like, she was coming up, and then she had to roll back when she wanted to kind of get into the more pop and more country, and when she was trying to get into that era.
That thing happens over and over again.
That's the thing. She was using the culture and remember when she was like twerking, for example?
Yeah.
3 6 Mafia made a twerk song back in the day. And like all of a sudden when she popped off and she was twerking at the VMAs and things like that, all of a sudden twerking is big.
I don't think that twerking became big when she did it. I don't think that that's what it is.
It came
I think
big
that it was
for the
always
majority
a
of the United
thing.
States. It wasn't big in our community.
Well, the thing it wasn't a thing for us.
That's the thing.
But okay, well, it was a thing for us because to black people, they were like, look at that white woman over there doing white people stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in the most like on some real way. But I think that on a universal American platform, it wasn't shocking in that she was doing it because everyone was doing it. Everyone was twerking. To me, it was shocking the way that she did the things that she did. Like Robin Thicke and the VMAs and the coming out and addressing Miley. I mean, Miley Cyrus was hosting the award show, came out and addressed Nicki Minaj, the #1 black, artist at the time. Like she's standing on stage trying to be shoulder to shoulder in a certain sense with black culture, and then in the same breath, you know what I mean? Because you can flamingo all you want to, and no one's gonna get mad. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you want a salsa, but you're not appropriating the culture, you're not stepping into it.
But why am I not appropriating?
Well, you tell me why you ain't appropriating.
What makes something appropriating? What makes something appropriating and appreciating? Because I can appreciate Hispanic culture. I can go to a salsa club and do my thing.
This is true. Okay, so right now we're looking for the line between appropriation and appreciation, and I think that it's exploitation. Yeah. At its fundamental root, at any point along the line, it doesn't matter if you're doing it for the benefit of someone else's laugh or giggle, or if you're doing it because you want to make a little extra change on the side. At the point where you start exploiting another culture and telling stories that don't belong to you in a disruptive manner, I feel like at that point it's done.
That's the line. That's the line of being.
The story that you tell is a story that affects culture. The problem that you have with Miley is that she rewrote the story. The story for years, since 99, had been that twerking was something that hood rats do. Yeah. And then when she stood on stage and banned two knots, it was okay all of a sudden.
But that's
it was
what
okay
I mean.
all
That's
of a
what
sudden
I mean.
for
like,
her to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the exploitation. And the exploitation for the black community, I think, didn't come until the backlash. Okay. Because, like, for instance, the Julianne, I gotta think of her name. She was on Fashion Police and she made a comment about Zendaya having faux locks. And she was like, she looks like she smells like patchouli oil. That's what she said. Oh my God, well, what she didn't know is Zendaya is the only one in her family who doesn't have locks. So she was like, I'll have you know, no one in my family smells like patchouli oil. Patchouli oil is very good for your skin.
Where was that coming from, though? That's the thing.
Yeah, why do you look at a person with locks and think
gatekeeping.
that?
The black community has a problem with gatekeeping our own culture. And here's the thing. Historically speaking, I get it. I get it. A lot of the aspect of our culture has been utilized and taken from and commodified and monetized, and none of that has come back. And so I can see why the black community is very hesitant and protective of our culture.
Right.
You know, even though black culture is a global thing now. I mean, rap music in and of itself is one of the biggest genres.
Black people create culture at this point.
Yes,
at this point, we are the
where do we, like you said, where do we kind of draw the line of allowing, even though that's where I gotta say
that's that trauma though, because what you're saying is where's the difference between the TikTokers now saying I'm not gonna create content if I don't get credit, and James Brown saying thank you so much for opening the door for me.
What happened on TikTok?
So I don't know if y'all were following this, but last year there was a big boycott because during COVID, TikTok blew up, and all of these creators are re-innovating and doing all of these black creations, with the dances, with the songs, with everything. And then when TikTokers were being invited onto talk shows from like Jimmy Fallon or whoever, they weren't calling the black creators who invented it. Instead, they were calling the TikTokers who blew up doing their dance.
Renegade by K-Camp is a great example. Yeah. Great example. I mean, there was one, my homeboy was telling me about it. There was like at a halftime show at an NBA show or NBA game. And they brought in the dancers that got big off Renegade from K-Camp, but they were white content creators. And that wasn't the original person that made up the dance until K-Camp put her in a music video. And that's where I think that we got to be cognizant, specifically in the community, about where we put our energy, where our creators put our energy.
Exactly. And do your research. Do your research. Because you have to. And like, I understand like the urge to be like, this is too much. We were talking about that earlier. The problem with like helping people is like it reached a point where helping people is your whole life, because now you're moving from helping this thing and now you can't ignore that thing and you can't, but you have to do the research and invest your time wisely, because that simple thing could have changed the black creator's life in a completely different way. And I'm not saying keep people out of our culture. Of course, you need to experience culture in order for it to grow. So don't in your efforts to keep everything, black, don't gatekeep to the point where we can't spread our culture and share it, because black people create culture. But at the same time, if you're a consumer of our culture, respect it enough to ask questions when you don't know, respect it enough to participate in it without objectifying it.
Absolutely.
And the people in it, because it's fine for a white girl to wear bantu knots and red lipstick and big, earrings and have a fat ass. But the second that same thing is on a black woman with an afro, she got an attitude.
That's my biggest thing.
Yeah.
That's where I personally believe that cultural appropriation has I don't want to say an extreme negative effect, but it has a long lasting negative effect on our culture. And you said it actually, whenever we talked about this before, man, you even said that it was almost a byproduct of capitalism.
Yeah.
It's a byproduct of being able to monetize a culture because you can.
Because of the resources.
Because you research. But here's the thing: who is allowing our culture to be monetized?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. If you look at the data, if you look at the stats of how much money that the black community kind of generates, the revenue it generates, it's like $1.3 trillion a year.
Right.
And so you have this huge population making money.
Of it,
but how much is coming back?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. If you look at how long a dollar stays in each culture, a dollar can stay in a white man's culture for like 53 days. It can stay in an Asian man's culture for like 15 days. And I just mean hand-to-hand exchanges. And I'm not saying this to blame black people, because I know that we get enough of that we don't open enough businesses. No, it's deeper than that. It's when you go and you submit a permit for your city for you to start building, whether or not they tell you can open a daycare or a liquor store, whether or not they tell you on this block you can have a school, or on this block you can have a 99-cent
bail
store.
Bonds, whatever it may
bail
be.
Bond, exactly.
Yeah.
Or some trash. And I'm not saying trash institution like that business isn't necessary.
It's an exploitative institution, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It feeds into the fact that you have people stacked up over here like human cattle, and then down the street the only vice that they have access to is alcohol, and then there's a bail bond. It doesn't inspire any kind of growth. Right. And the only kind of capitalism that you see is negatively affecting you. Like I heard in the and we can get into this in some other episodes, but like with BLM in a lot of different places, they're super anti-capitalism. Yeah. And I get it, because of exploitation and because of, appropriation. You don't want to keep feeding into this system of taking and extracting from you. But I think that we have to learn how to work this system in a way that serves us, so that we're not damaging our own stance in the world, because this is how the world works. Absolutely. And we can't keep trying to carve out places for us to fit. We need to say, this is where we are, this is what we're doing, respect our space, and and give to the world.
Absolutely.
That's all I got on cultural appropriation. Just don't be a dick. Don't take shit that's not yours.
Yeah, man. And I'm talking to white folks right now. It's okay to partake in black culture.
Please do.
I encourage it.
We love when y'all come to our cookout.
Right.
We think that white people, and not in like an exploitive way, we just think that y'all are very creative and funny and open-hearted and
you have
light.
Something to bring to the table. Absolutely. To our culture. And I know some black folk in the comment are gonna be like, nah. But here's the thing.
Yeah, for sure.
We are. Black culture is not experience. No, It's not a monolith. That's the word I was looking for. It's not a monolith. It's diverse. There's different black people within the culture. Also, too, there's people that bring to the table that are white or light skinned and things like that. We are a diverse people, diverse nation. Absolutely. We should be able to partake in each other's cultures and use each other's culture for the good of everybody, for the good of society.
Absolutely.
When it doesn't do that, that's when I say you can fuck yourself and not partake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
if you feel like you gotta go to the cookout and stick stuff in your
sell
pocket,
that plate,
you know what I'm saying?
And sell that plate that you got from the cookout. That's what I mean.
Why you selling your plate? We made that for you.
Exactly.
Like, we don't even be selling patty pies like that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Not patty pies.
You remember the patty pies when they dropped? They was everywhere. Patty pies was hot. All I'm saying is don't take shit. That's our advice for the day.
Right there. Don't steal shit.
Don't do that.
Please.
And that's it.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? Take a nap, drink some water.
Take some alkaline water, some Kangen water.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
It's at Speak the Proof, man. Y'all can follow us on all platforms. Again, my name is O'Neal.
And my name is Brooklyn.
This is Speak the Proof, and we appreciate y'all watching. We'll catch y'all later.
Yeah.